So welcome along to A Story to Tell with me, Richard Beauvoisin. This is mainly taken from my Radio Bath show every Thursday morning from 10 until 12. If you do like it, don't forget to subscribe, share it to others and let everyone know all about Radio Bath. Hope you enjoy it. Now this podcast is an extra special one because this was actually me appearing on Simon Mcneill Ritchie's travel show on Radio Bath.
Made locally in Bath, this is Radio Bath.
We now come to the highlight of my week, which is to talk to my guest about our destination of the week. And we've got another great destination, but we've also got a great guest because he's a fellow presenter on Radio Bath. And Richard Beauvoisin, who normally would be sitting on this side of the mic and asking the questions. It's really nice to be able to put him on the spot for a change. So you're very welcome, Richard. I promise to be gentle.
I've interviewed you, Simon.
I've still got the scars to show it. Where are we going to go today? Tell us all.
So it was a 6-part trip for us. We were going out there. So I'm, as well as being on Radio Bath, a dance teacher and a franchisee as well. And we were going out there in the main to be part of the Ciroc Pan-Asia Championships, known as CPAC. We were the team captains for Team North, so we were in charge of the Northern Hemisphere and we were against the Southern Hemisphere regarding a dance competition. But we also were competing and judging while we were out there. So we did 6 parts. We went to Malaysia to start with, to Kuala Lumpur. Then we went to Cambodia, then down to mid-Vietnam and then to North Vietnam as well. So a total of 22 days. It was a full-on trip.
It sounds wonderful. I'm sure it was very hard work. So let's start in Kuala Lumpur.
Kuala Lumpur, yes. It's a really interesting city. It's full of skyscrapers. We actually hired a massive apartment for around about £200 for the 4 nights per couple. So that was really good value and it was right in the centre of the city. We visited loads and loads. We had an itinerary every day. Every night we said, this is what we're going to do. And we woke up the following morning and generally then did something completely different. It was also really interesting weather that they were having out there at the same time. Normally this time of year, it's either the rainy season or it's hot or it's kind of a bit of both. It was boiling during the morning, but then they had some thunderstorms in the afternoon. When we say thunderstorms, we were up in the skyscrapers and we could see the fog lightning coming down right across the city. It was incredible to watch. Yeah, the first day we went up KL Tower, which is, I think at one point, the second tallest tower in Asia. And what was nice, you get out to the top of it and you see the panoramic views. And one of the parts you can get to do is you go onto a little ledge, effectively. You get 45 seconds and it's a glass floor, so you can see straight down.
What is KL like these days? Some 20 years since I've been there.
It is incredibly built up. It's like New York, if I'm honest with you. Quite overwhelming at times. Certainly, we went to the Petronas Towers, which are the famous towers in Kuala Lumpur. You can look up and you see the suspended bridge. It's quite overwhelming. There were times, certainly from a neurodiverse perspective, I was like, I just need a bit of countryside.
I've been on trips to the States where I just need a salad, which I never thought I would say. But I understand where you're coming from. So if you're somebody who likes that sort of New York City type of visit, it sounds ideal.
Yeah, if you just go outside of the city, you've got the Baku Caves, which are very well known out that way. Got to be very careful of the monkeys. If you carry anything with you at all, they will rip it out of your hands. So got to be careful of the monkeys, but that was great. And we did do actually a trip outside of Kuala Lumpur as well. We went to see the fireflies. So we went on a boat trip and we saw the eagles being fed and then the fireflies late at night. You could literally hold them in your hand. So that was quite special. And then saw the plankton in the water as well.
Okay, so there are more than skyscrapers to be seen.
More than skyscrapers. It's about a 45-minute journey outside of it. You get taxis everywhere. Again, it's very, very cheap. Go half an hour across the city, it still costs like £6.
And great food everywhere as well.
Yeah, fantastic food. Wherever we went to, all the food was really good. I'm very pleased I visited there. Am I going to go back very quickly? I probably will go to other places first, but really enjoyed going to Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah, and a lot of people are into Kuala Lumpur on the way to somewhere else, so it might be worth taking a day or two out just to have a look around before completing your journey.
Very much so.
From there, am I right in thinking you went off to Cambodia?
Yeah, so we went down to Siem Reap. Really interesting place. Siem Reap is right next to Angkor Wat, which is their famous temple, which is where Indiana Jones was filmed. We were given the advice about when to go to Angkor Wat, and you've got 2 options. One is sunset or one is sunrise. So we decided that we were going to go for the sunrise. But when we got there, they hadn't actually set up the entry points or anything. It was still absolutely pitch black, about 4:30 in the morning. So we didn't want to miss the sunrise. And we almost walked past the entrance and just kept walking for another mile. But it's an incredible place to go. Definitely, if you are going to go to Angkor Wat, you need to go early morning to get that sunrise.
We went a little later in the day, and I can tell you that was a mistake because it was very hot by then.
I would definitely advise getting a guide as well. The guides can show you around much better than you can ever understand.
We see that famous facade of that temple, but actually the whole area is vast, isn't it? And there's a lot more to see and do than even just walking around Angkor Wat. So you do need a guide.
And yeah, the other thing the guide gave us, which was really interesting, is he taught us how to use a panoramic camera. So normally when you do a panoramic, you swipe from left to right, you try and keep the arrow straight
Yes.
and get that lovely view. What he did is he turned it on its side and he got positioned in between two palm trees and then flipped it up. Palm trees kind of closed in at the top. He then did that again when we're in different temples and you get the whole view of the temple and the sky and it's like you're enclosed.
And it's
So,
all
yeah.
framed, yeah. That is very, very clever. Anyone who's taking selfies and doing all of this posting on Instagram and whatever, we want to see more of those sorts of photographs from now on.
Yeah, Siam Reap was a fascinating place. It's a small town, but there's lots and lots there. So the hotel we were in was lovely. It was right in the centre of the town, right next to somewhere called Pub Street, which is where all the local bars are. Out one night in Pub Street.
Got to be done.
Yeah, it was a really interesting night. The menu was the biggest menu I've ever seen in my entire life. It was on an iPad, and we kept scrolling and kept scrolling and kept scrolling, and it just had so many different things from so many different cultures. But the main thing about Siam Reap is the wonderful world of tuk-tuks. Have you been on a tuk-tuk, Simon?
I have. I've done it in Siem Reap as well.
Have
Yeah.
you? So what was your
Yeah.
thoughts on Siam Reap?
I loved it. Funny enough, Angkor Wat has to be done. Fabulous place to go and visit. But actually, it was the bits around it in some ways that made it even more special for me. I went to a charity there called a Popo. And this charity uses highly trained African rats to smell out explosives in the ground because, unfortunately, as you know, Cambodia's history has been fairly torturous in the last few decades, and there's a lot of ordnance still in the ground. And using metal detectors is laborious because it just picks up metal, and there's a lot of it in the ground anyway, not all of it harmful. But the rats are trained to be able to sniff out the explosives, and they do a fabulous job. So it was all those other bits around Angkor Wat that, for me, added the additional colour.
I would have loved to have had time to go to see the killing fields. One of the stats that I found really interesting was that I think it's something like 65% of Cambodians are under the age of 35 due to all the atrocities in the late 70s. That's kind of strange when you look around that there aren't many old people. I was certainly one of the older people that were there, that's for sure.
It does have a very sad history. I should say it's a very positive culture now and very, very dynamic and lots of excitement, lots of great things to see, both historical and cultural.
And then just very quickly, I have to say about the dance competition because it was very well run, thankfully aircon. Team North won, that's the key part. Yeah, I was just super proud of the whole team. Really super pleased, and I even won the competitions that I entered as well. So I can bring the medals in if you like.
From Cambodia.
So we go to mid-Vietnam now. So we flew down to Da Nang and then we went to Hoi An, which is a beautiful place.
Yes, very elegant and very colonial, isn't it, in its style?
Yeah, we were in, again, a very nice hotel, but you literally walk out of the hotel and you are in the middle of real life. You walk out of the entrance and the shops that are there are the local shops.
Yeah, and actually I always found it very, very ironic, shall we say, that in Vietnam, that this is a country that prides itself on being communist. I don't know a more capitalist country.
I'm intrigued by the setup in that they're a communist country, so they have one government, which is going to be there forever, but they have a capitalist culture.
Yeah.
And they're allowed to be capitalist whilst being communist. And it's almost like the best of both worlds.
It certainly seemed to be the best of both worlds. It was a very thriving economy, lots of people doing their own business, which is always very satisfying. Yeah. How you can bridge being a communist state with such an evidently capitalist economy, that really does get you inside the Asian mind, I think.
I just thought it was fascinating. Again, everybody had their own businesses and they were thriving. When we went up north, it was even more development taking place. And I just found it a fascinating place, certainly the fishing side of it as well. Did you see the basket boats when you went there? So when the French used to run Vietnam, they brought in a tax, which if your boat was over a certain size, they would tax you on it. So very cleverly, what the Vietnamese people did is they made circular boats out of bamboo, known as basket boats, and they are the ones that they use to go out to the fishing. And we were very fortunate. Our hotel was right on the beach. And we just walked along and the local fishermen were actually there preparing to go out in their basket boats. It was real life Vietnam. It was lovely to see. And their fishing boats were out in the sea and therefore apparently not taxed because they weren't coming into the mainland. But we did see one of the basket boats capsize, unfortunately, but there we go.
They never look very stable, do they?
We did do a very touristy thing as well. We went on one of the rivers, and you can go in one of the basket boats with a guide. You go along in the boat, and then you get the chance to kind of almost have a fairground ride as well. They have a particular person, and he stands up in the boat, and he puts the oar in the water and
Yeah,
spins you round like a Wurlitzer.
it's got to be done. Got to be
It
done.
has got to be done. I did it. I normally get very sick on that type of thing, but yeah, I highly recommend it. And again, they looked after us really well. It was very touristy, but it didn't feel very touristy. I even went on the back of a moped as well. Quite an experience in Vietnam, no
Living
doubt.
dangerously, you will, with your spinning boats and your motorbikes.
Yeah, I like to live on the edge. We also did some snorkeling when we went out there as well. Snorkeling was okay. It was not particularly clear, the waters, but we saw enough fish and some jellyfish and a variety of bits and pieces. But
What is really striking about all the things that you saw is it's the variety. It just seems to have been something for everyone and every day.
we went into Hoi An a number of times. The hotel ran a shuttle bus. Hoi An itself is a fascinating city with all the lanterns that are there and the
Beautiful,
street
yeah.
markets. Incredible place. Obviously, we got loads of trinkets, so you kind of get the sightseeing side of it as well. But yeah, fascinating part of Vietnam. Thought the people of Vietnam were amazing, incredibly helpful. They all wanted the best for everybody, and
Yeah, as you say, the people in many ways were the highlight of it as well. They couldn't do enough for you, but it always seemed sincere rather than that slightly forced service that you can get in some tourist areas. And from there, you were heading up north?
we flew up to Hanoi and we stayed for just one night. Hanoi is a fascinating city as well. The bit that I found very, very interesting about Hanoi is that there are 1 million cars in Hanoi and 7 million motorbikes.
You're
And it's
painting a
chaos.
picture.
Absolute chaos. Crossing the road is...
As soon as the lights change, there's just this tsunami of motorbikes heading towards
Yeah.
you down the narrow streets, isn't there?
And don't think that a zebra crossing works the same way a zebra crossing does in the UK. They're just lines on the road, if I'm honest with you.
Exactly, and you're relying not on one driver to realise you're on it and to get it right. You're relying on about a dozen across the whole width of the road to all stop at the same time, which ain't going to happen.
It's not. I mean, one of the famous parts of Hanoi, you've got the lake and you've got the old quarter and all of that, is of course Train Street. Did you visit Train Street when you went there?
Not that I can recall. What's on Train Street? Don't say
On Train
trains.
Street is a street which has a
Yeah.
train on it. It's very bizarre. So they have a timetable about when the train comes along, and you think well, you're not quite sure about any of this.
Right.
And you've got cafes on either side of the train track. But if we try and get a distance of it, the edge of the cafe, if I jumped, I would be on the train line. And you've got that on either side. That's how tight it is. From
Oh,
there.
I saw a picture of you and your wife
Yeah, on the
dancing
train
it.
line. You get into one of the cafes, they serve you food and drinks or whatever it may be, and then the bell rings, and then the train comes along. We had two trains go along while we were there, but literally you're on the side and you can reach out and touch the train as it's going past. The first one was a very short carriage. The second one went on for about a minute and a half. I believe they are due to close the train street in about 3 or 4 years.
Get aboard the last train because it's not going to last an awful lot longer. It seems to me slightly dodgy, mixing alcohol with trains. I can see perhaps why the Vietnamese are going to reroute that. How amazing, how amazing. Your abiding memory of Hanoi. What else did you find there that you enjoyed?
We did the classic thing of we got a foot massage for an hour, which was fabulous.
Yes.
Our daughter had her nails painted. Love a foot
Yeah.
massage.
Hanoi was an interesting place. I'm not saying I necessarily loved it as a city, but I felt it was very authentic, very Asian in a lot of ways. Particularly after someone like KL, for instance, it's almost at the other end of the scale of Asian cities, I would imagine. Did you then go on to the bay? How long?
Yeah, so we booked a cruise to go for 2 nights, 3 days over to Halong Bay. They picked us up from the hotel and we went out to, well, I say Halong Bay. We went to Halong Bay, but we actually didn't turn right. So when you go into Halong Bay, you have two options. You can go right, which is Halong Bay, or you can go left, which is Bailong Bay, which is kind of like the sister island. It's identical. You've still got the rocks everywhere. You've still got water. There's one major difference in that you've hardly got any other ships around.
Do you know what? Knowing I was going to be talking to you about it and going back in my memory of my own experiences on Halong Bay, I was going to say to you, one of the things is it definitely feels like it's been overpopulated with tourist ships, etc. And there was quite a lot of flotsam and jetsam on the sea surface as well, which didn't add to the allure of the place.
For those that don't know what that is, explain what Flotsam and Eastham is.
Well, we have very smart listeners on the travel show on Radio Bath, Richard, but just for the sake of completeness. Jetsam is the stuff that you deliberately throw off a ship. Either it's waste or it's in the way of something. And Flotsam is what really comes up to the surface from wreckage. It's all the stuff that's floating on the surface, which once would have been timbers and is now, unfortunately, too often plastics.
Well, when we were in the waiting area, they banned you from taking any plastics on board. You're not allowed to take plastics on board at all anymore. So your drinks bottles, you're allowed a metal bottle. The rubbish is still there, certainly in some of the shipping lanes. If I was to recommend anybody, we went on Dragon cruises. But yeah, go to Bailong Bay rather than Halong Bay.
Good tip.
You still leave from the same port, but you turn left. And like the only other ships we saw, I reckon, in the 3 days we were out there, 5 other ships.
Well, you see 5 other ships in about a minute going into Halong Bay, that's for sure. And the topography, the rocks coming out of the water, the islands as such, although they don't look very habitable, they're just such a feature, aren't they?
It's an unbelievable scenario on the sea, which is like a mill pond. You don't get seasick or anything.
No.
And you're just surrounded by all these rocks, and they're everywhere. And they're all the same height as well, which is always the interesting part for me. So it's not like one's massive and one's tiny. They're all exactly the same height, pretty much. And yeah, we did go on to a couple of them. We had a lunch on the beach. We went into one of the caves, which was on one of them as well. We did a fishing village visit too. We didn't just stay on the boat. The most difficult part we had actually was eating to some degree. Now, I know you like your food, Simon, as do I. So when we got on board, they said lunch will be served very shortly. And they gave us a menu. And on the menu had 2 starters, and then I think there were 6 main courses, and then there was a dessert. And we looked at it and we went, well, we'd like the first part of the starter, and then we'll have number 3, and then there's the dessert. And they went, no, you get everything. And for an hour and a half, they just kept bringing food. It was like a 10-course meal every single meal. And I put on, I reckon, 1/2 stone in 3 days.
The hospitality and the value for money is very, very good in Vietnam.
Yes, I would highly recommend it. I know you've got 2 options when you do the cruises, a 2-day, 1-night cruise or a 2-night, 3-day cruises. I would definitely do the 2 nights. We were on board a ship which could house up to 48 people. There were 17 in total to start with. 7 got off after 1 night. So we ended up with just 10 of us left. They did a special meal for us on the last night.
Where you had to eat for 48 people, did you?
Pretty much. I think they gave us everybody's food. And I was vegetarian as well, so they very much catered for that too. Had your own special menu, which was good, but they were doing gluten-free. That was one of my concerns. What are they going to feed me? But actually, all the food was delicious. Just very quickly, we also then went down to Ninh Bình. Ninh Bình, which for those that aren't aware, is about 2 hours south of Hanoi, and it's the equivalent of Halong Bay on land. So you still get to see all of the big rocks and everything, but you're actually on land. And we did a homestay. Now, people worry about homestay and they think, is it literally you're in somebody's back room? It's not that. It is somebody's home, but they create lots of proper hotel rooms, swimming pool. Ours was amazing. It was literally 5 minutes from the centre of Tam Kok, which is a lovely little town. And yeah, it was a fantastic place to go to. Main thing they were having, though, at the time we were there was a heat wave. Now, when we say a heat wave, I've never experienced heat like it.
I was going to say, for those people who think, yeah, heat wave, we have those in England from time to time. No, we don't. The humidity is a killer.
Yeah, so the actual base heat was around about 42 degrees, but the real feel with humidity and everything was around 54 degrees. Our main issue that we had is that one of the things which I would always advise anybody to do is in an air-conditioned room, have a look on TripAdvisor and decide where you're going to eat for lunch or dinner. We had push bikes at the hotel and we just cycled the 5 minutes into town to go and do that. On one of the occasions, though, it was lunchtime and it was one of the very hot days. Went to go to a place. We cycled to exactly where Google Maps said it was, and it wasn't there. We then are in 54-degree heat trying to figure out somewhere to eat. And being vegetarian and having a 10-year-old daughter.
I can imagine the conversations were very calm and very measured and everyone just took it on the chin and...
Yeah, I ended up leaving my wife and daughter in the shade somewhere and cycling and trying to find somewhere that just had air conditioning, somewhere nice to eat. I eventually found somewhere. To say we were hot and bothered by this point would be the understatement of the century. But we got in there, and I have to say, they looked after us really well. We're the only customers in there. They stick the aircon on, they stick the fans on, they brought us over water and tea and just looked after us really, really well.
It was probably somebody else's home, actually. They didn't want to be rude and tell you that they weren't a restaurant. Now,
No, Nimbin's a fantastic place. Highly recommend it. Loads to see. The other part that you can do, you can go on the ravine that's there, so the boat tour. But the interesting part is that they row the oars with their feet. So they are sat back in a chair very comfortably, and they are rowing the boat using both of their feet. We got some fantastic videos of it. They're very, very skilled.
do you know that makes so much sense? Because although it sounds a little bit unnatural, as you will know as a dancer, your thighs are so much stronger than your arms. I guess that does make a lot of sense.
It does. Rowing the boat with their feet. And we were sat there again underneath umbrellas and underneath the Vietnamese hats, which are a fantastic invention. The hottest moment we had in the entire holiday, though, is they stopped off at certain points, stopped off and they said, there's toilets here, but also go up the steps. Went up these steps. And eventually you get up to the very top. It's probably around about 200 steps, but you got to look down the ravine itself. And the view is possibly the best view I've ever seen in my entire life. Just an amazing thing to do. So highly, highly recommend doing the boat tour if you go to Tamcock.
Richard, you said, and I understand why, that KL you sort of felt you'd done and there was no need to necessarily rush back for that. How do you feel about the other places you went to?
Yeah, Siam Reap I haven't done. I feel
Right.
like there's so much more to see in Siam Reap. I'd love to go back there again. And likewise with Vietnam, we were in the middle of Vietnam and we went to the north of Vietnam, haven't done the south of Vietnam at all. I would definitely go back to all of those places. So yeah, if I had the choice, it would be Siam Reap and then go to Hoi An and then go south from there. That would be my next trip I'd love to do.
One thing that we did a couple of years ago, which I think would be right up your street, is we went from Siem Reap down to Phnom Penh, and then we went down the Mekong River for 4 days, and eventually went through to Ho Chi Minh. I think that would just complement what you've already seen in other parts.
It's definitely a different world.
Richard, thank you very much indeed for coming and sharing all of that with us. What a journey. And again, can I say it often enough? Congratulations, the North team, and all your success in the competition. For many people, it would be enough just to go and do the trip, but you bring that element of competitiveness back into it just to spice it up.
It was lovely. It was a 6-part trip for us. We had loads of social stuff, we had loads of family time, and we did some competing as well. So it was kind of a complete trip.